guys, hey, everyone, yeah, you! Marvel movies are back! And I can think of no better way to kick off Phase 4 of the MCU than with a movie we've been asking for a really long time about a popular character who dies in Phase 3 and isn't coming back. Oh. I'm the Bipolar Critic, and I'm of two minds about this movie. Black Widow, starring Scarlett Johansson, Florence Pugh, David Harbour, and Rachel Weisz, was released on May 1st, 2020 on... Wait. Okay, I thought I read that wrong. Black Widow, starring Scarlett Johansson, Florence Pugh, David Harbour, and Rachel Weisz, was released on November 6th, 2020, and Hold on, wait. That can't be right. Okay. Black Widow, starring Scarlett Johansson, Florence Pugh, David Harbour, and Rachel Weisz, was released on May 1st, 2021, and Okay, wait, something... Oh, for fuck's sake. Black Widow was finally released on July 9th, 2021, both on streaming and in theaters, and I could not have been more excited for this movie. I mean, yes, we did get 3 other Marvel TV shows this year, and they were all stellar. They were amazing, and I loved all 3 of them, but it's just not the same. Now, I grew up loving comic books, but I was more of a DC kid than I was a Marvel kid, and while I will always have a special place in my heart for the Christopher Reeve Superman movies or the Tim Burton Batman movies, the showing from Warner Brothers and DC of late has been less than stellar. And when I saw the first Iron Man movie for the first time, I became a devoted disciple of Marvel and the holy trinity of the Feige, the Favreau, and the Downey Jr. So honestly, I am way too excited to keep rambling on, so I'm gonna go watch the movie and then tell me what I thought. So, I know this sounds weird, but I think Marvel needed the pandemic, at least from a storytelling point of view. I mean, after the universal threat that is Thanos, one of the biggest Marvel comic villains ever, and then a 10-plus year build-up to Infinity War and Endgame, the MCU, and all of us, frankly, needed a moment just to catch our breath and relax. Otherwise, if we had just kept going with little to no breathing room between phases 3 and 4, we all would have been burnt out as an audience, and this movie would have felt out of place, or awkward, or maybe even inconsequential. But thanks to the forced hiatus and a couple of warm-up TV shows earlier this year, I think Black Widow was the perfect way to kick off Phase 4 of the MCU. I mean, no, it wasn't as galaxy-spanning or as epic as Infinity War or Endgame. In fact, it's quite a bit smaller. And it still has those heart-pounding action sequences we've come to expect from Marvel. In addition, the stunt team is in top form in this movie, as are the special effects. Not to mention that Marvel's signature brand of being able to balance action, humor, and emotion is put to perfect use in this movie because we finally get a closer look inside the life and journey of Natasha Romanoff. But that signature mix of comedy and heart only works if you have a really talented cast with great chemistry. Now, the chemistry between all of the actors was fantastic, and we got way more than we could have hoped for just with David Harbour and Rachel Weisz. However, the back and forth interactions between Natasha and Florence Pugh's Yelena reminded me of the magnetic chemistry that we see between Scarlett Johansson and Chris Evans all the time, specifically in Winter Soldier. But what really knocked this one out of the park for me was how, in many ways, this movie was a departure from what we're used to seeing in the MCU. After all, it's a movie about a reformed villain who goes back to her roots and interacts heavily with other villains to try and do something good. But even though it was a departure, it still felt familiar. It took me the entire movie to figure out why it felt familiar, but during the climactic act, I figured out why. It's a classic spy movie. It's a Bond film. Original Bond, not the new gritty Bond. You know, a charming, gorgeous spy who likes to strike dramatic poses and has lots of cool gadgets and equally charming and gorgeous allies, goes globetrotting in search of a shadowy supervillain who likes to monologue about his nefarious plan. He has a crazy, elaborate supervillain's lair, a physically imposing, over-the-top henchman, and a shadowy network of evil spies that try to kill our hero, which results in fast-paced, epic car chases through a small European town, brutal fight scenes, and pulse-pounding action. This is James Bond done by Marvel, and it is the perfect first foray into the Black Widow franchise, which is why it's really heartbreaking that it's also the last. For Natasha, anyway. You know, I figured you were gonna like it, but that was actually some really good insight. I didn't realize you had it in us. Yeah, no big surprise here. Pretty standard. Marvel fan. I gotta be honest, it's been so long since the last Marvel movie, I was worried there for a minute. I know, can you imagine what it would have been like if I'd said I'd hated it? Oh no. I think we're about to find out what that's like. So... you watched the movie yet? Yeah, I really don't want to ask this, but, what'd you think? What do you want me to say? We have the exact same conversation every time there's a new Marvel movie. And no matter what eternal fanboy over there says, this one was no different. It was just as predictable. Hell, so much so, I was able to call out what was about to happen right before it happened. This was no departure. It felt and even looked exactly the same as every other cookie cut with the Marvel cookie cutter. They even used the exact same location cards that they do in every Marvel movie when they switched locations. In fact, you know what? I would bet you that if you mixed up scenes from this movie with any other Marvel movie and played them back, you would not be able to tell which scene was from which movie. I mean, why do they even hire different directors anymore? And okay, the CG was well done, but it kinda has to be when 90% of your movie is a digital effect. And I can already see some of you in the comments saying, but the villains in Marvel movies are great. The villains in Marvel movies are interesting. Almost every villain in a Marvel movie is just a dark, evil reflection of the hero. Iron Man, Ironmonger. Captain America, Red Skull. Black Panther, Killmonger. I could go on. And the few that aren't just evil photocopies fall victim to an even bigger problem that, frankly, all comic book movies have. They die in the end. In fact, I'm having a hard time thinking of more than 2 villains who don't die in the end, excluding whatever is going on with Loki and his television show. And they are either not that interesting, the Supreme Intelligence from Captain Marvel, or they're being made ambiguously gray. Baron Zemo from Civil War and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The point is, Marvel kills off its villains that could be put to perfectly good use in future movies. They could have had a consistent, threatening villain in Taskmaster, one that had the ability to pop into any of the other franchises just due to the nature of his powers. But by the end, they shot themselves in the foot in that regard. And no, I am not referring to the twist that they put on the character toward the end. Basically, Marvel movies are all exactly the same. They are flashy, predictable, mental junk food. And if you've seen one, you've seen them all. Right, so nothing really new there either, huh? Nope. I'm fine with that. The entire point of storytelling is to move you. So your opinion is just that, your emotional reaction to something about the movie, which is why you can also sometimes find people who can't verbalize why they like or dislike a movie. They just do. And even that is still valid because that's what's supposed to happen. So initially I was having trouble trying to figure out exactly what to say about all of this for the review because I also wanted to discuss the extreme opposite end of how this can be taken, which is to mistake demonizing or deifying an entire genre as valid critique or criticism. Because it's not. I've seen a lot of this lately, mostly from big-name directors in Hollywood, and it always seems aimed at comic book movies or sci-fi fantasy movies or big tentpole blockbuster movies.
The Marvel-type pictures, where the theaters become amusement parks. That's a different experience, and it's not even, I was saying earlier, it's not cinema, it's something else.
Martin was kind when he said it's not cinema. He didn't say it's despicable, which I just say it is.
Not that I don't love the movies, it's just, come on guys, there are other stories to tell besides hypergonadal males without families doing death-defying things for 2 hours and wrecking cities in the process.
Bullshit.
But as much as I want to talk about that, and I do, because it really, truly pisses me off, I realized I was ranting myself down a rabbit hole of negativity, which I really don't want to do, and it would have made the video really long. What I'd rather be talking about is how the biggest, most exciting moment in Black Widow wasn't any of the action set pieces. It was the dinner table scene. I wanted to talk about how the villain being good or well done isn't the point, although I really do think Dreykov is well done. The point of the villain is how the hero reacts to that villain and the obstacles they put in the hero's way. Black Widow handles that expertly. Natasha starts off the movie kind of directionless, not really knowing what to do with herself in the wake of civil war, but her reaction to the news about Dreykov and how she chooses to handle it is the driving force of the movie. And that is so powerful and focused that that's why we don't see Dreykov until the end of the movie. We don't need the villain constantly showing up to remind us why Natasha is doing what she's doing. Basically, I just wanted to say that I loved this movie, but not because it's Marvel or because it had great action and good humor and great performances, but because big tentpole blockbusters can still be thought-provoking, and spectacle can be intellectually and emotionally engaging. It's actually something Marvel does really well, which is what makes Black Widow a perfect addition to the MCU. And with that, until next time, I'm the Bipolar Critic, and so am I, and so am I, and... Hey, wait a minute, no. Whew. Hey. Yeah, it was worth a try. Can't get rid of yourself, can you? Maybe I need a different glove. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing the differing points of view. If you like this video, please click that little thumbs up down in the corner. Really helps us out. We're still working toward our goal of 100 subscribers, so if you know anybody who might enjoy these videos, please share the channel with them so they can come over here and subscribe. And if you're watching this video and you're not subscribed, what are you doing? The button is like right there, down below this video. Go ahead, click it right now. It's there. Do it. And you can also tap that little bell in the corner if you want to be notified when I release new videos. If there's something about Black Widow that you feel like I missed or should have mentioned in the video, feel free to put that in the comments down below. Just keep it civil and keep it spoiler-free. If you have a suggestion of an upcoming movie you'd like to see me review, feel free to drop me a line at the Bipolar Critic email. I'm also reachable at the Bipolar Critic Twitter and Instagram, all three of which are listed in the video description down below. And lastly, if you or anybody else you know is suffering from a mental health issue and needs help, there are links and phone numbers in the video description. Please don't be afraid to get help. That's all for me, so I love you guys. You are awesome, and I'll see you next time.